Have you ever had a once-in-a-lifetime encounter with a wild animal? In today's video, we're going to share an incredible story of John, a man who formed an unlikely bond with a pack of wolves in the wild. Get ready to be inspired by this true story of courage, friendship, and the unbreakable bond between man and nature. It happened a few years ago, when a prospector named John was searching for gold along Coho Creek on the southern east side of Alaska's Caprinov Island. As he emerged from the forest, he saw a huge Alaskan timber wolf trapped in a bog just 20 feet away from him. The wolf had gotten caught in a trap that belonged to one of John's hunter friends named George, who had passed away from a heart attack the previous week. John knew that if he hadn't been out that day, the wolf would have surely perished. He approached the wolf hoping to help her, but she was scared and backed away, straining at the cabin of the trap as she tried to pull herself free. Joan noticed that the wolf was a female and her teeth were full of milk, which meant that her cubs were still somewhere on the island. He knew that he needed to help her free the female wolf so that she could go back to her pups, but he was worried that if he set her free, she would turn aggressive and attack him to protect her babies. So Joan came up with a plan. He decided to search for the cubs and bring them to their mother instead. He started looking for any signs where the mother had come from and found a few remaining prints in the patches of snow around the edge of the bog. Following the tracks, he led himself half a mile through the forest and up a rock-strewn slope. Finally finding the wolf's den, 4 tiny pups appeared, and they slowly walked up to John and began suckling at his fingers. They couldn't have been more than a few weeks old, and they were obviously starving. John picked up the pups one by one and placed them into his burlap bag. Upon returning to the trapped mama wolf, she quickly stood to attention when she noticed John coming back to her. She let out a high-pitched whine, as if she knew that that man had her babies with him. John released the pups from his bag, and within moments, they were all suckling at their mother's belly. The next morning, John was awakened by 4 fluffy bundles of fur snipping on his face. It seemed he had earned the wolf's pup's trust, but the mama wolf was still wary of him. Every time he tried to get close to the little family, the mama would growl at him and warn him back, resigning that he wouldn't be able to free her. So John went and searched for something for the mama wolf to eat. To keep her strength up, he came across the leg of a deer carcass and cut off a hind quarter. The prospector made a rough shelter for himself near the wolf's family and was soon asleep. Finally, on the 5th day, something encouraging happened. When John delivered the female wolf's daily dose of venison, he noticed that the wolves wagged her tail slightly. That meant she started to trust him. Joan sat down only 8 feet away from her, so close that if she had wanted to, the wolf could have broken his arm with just a snap of her jaws. The next day, Jonah walked to the sound of the pups nursing. He carefully petted them in greeting. And to his surprise, the mother wolf didn't growl or move. That was a good sign. John then put his hand on the wolf's trapped leg. She flinched, but didn't make a move to stop him. Finally, after days of trying to gain her trust, all of John's efforts were paying off. John examined the steel trap and saw that its jaws only caught 2 of the animal toes. He found the release catch and quickly pressed down on it. Now the female wolf was finally free. John expected the mama wolf to gather her pups and disappear into the woods, but she did something much different that shocked John entirely. The wolf slowly crept up to John and began to lick his hands and fingers. John was astonished. It went against all his knowledge about wolves, but he was more than happy to let it happen. After a while, the mother decided that she was ready to leave. So she gathered up her pups and walked towards the forest before disappearing completely. She turned back to John as if asking him to follow her. John understood and gathered his belongings, following the animal. They eventually ended up ascending Kuprinov Mountain and came upon the Alpine Meadow. Along the edge of the meadow, lurking in the shadows with a wolf pack of around 9 adults and 4 nearly full-grown pups, the entire family broke into howling. John watched from a distance, amazed that he was witnessing something so spectacular. The next day, as the sun rose, John knew it was time to leave. As he gathered up his things, the mama wolves watched him intently. The mama wolf and her pups were sitting where he had left them, watching him. John waved his final goodbye, and to his surprise, the mother wolf let out a mournful howl. John found himself back in the woods after serving in World War II. As he walked through the familiar woods, something caught his eyes. It was the rusted steel trap that he had saved the mama wolf from. He climbed the mountain until he was at the meadow. Then he noticed a large dark shape moving in his direction as it crossed the meadow. It was a timber wolf. But it wasn't just any old wolf, it was the one he saved. The animal stopped just in front of John. Then as quickly as she had appeared, she disappeared into the woods again. John left the island not so long after. And while he never saw the animal again, the memory of her and her pup stuck with him forever, for the rest of his life. The magical experience of sharing a special bond with another animal is one that many of us can relate to. The feeling of love and connection with our pets is something truly special. If you came across a wolf in need, what would you do? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for daily inspiring videos. See you in the next time for more amazing stories.